This conversation, part two, is brought to you by Great Dane.
The conversation continues with Coach Josh Schertz with Indiana State University head coach. Appreciate your time again, Coach. This is a long one, but I think it's worth it. You've talked a little bit about your style and about recruiting and things of that sort. Um, is there still a talent curve when the kids come in from transferring in or come in as freshmen and whoops, this is Missouri Valley? Yeah.
Yeah, oh, of course. I think that happens for every player. It's not always necessarily. I think the learning curve of how we want to play. Generally, if guys aren't playing, there's usually with young players usually one of three things: either they're not physically ready, they're not strong enough to compete physically at this level yet. Maybe sometimes it's they don't play hard enough. Whatever, at high school, the level of intensity, level of college intensity is different. How hard you got to play every single possession. Then the third thing that could usually trip a younger player up, a freshman up, is you get into, do they know what we're doing on both ends of the floor, the complexities of the system, they understand. Those are usually the three biggest stumbling blocks for freshmen. When you're looking at transfers, they usually have an idea of playing hard enough. They understand that they've been in college. They're usually physically at a point where they've done at this level. It really more is that last, can they figure out how we want to play,
Right.
what we're doing, and and we, counterintuitively, we play with a lot of freedom. We play at a lot of, concepts more than plays, but it's actually a harder way to play because you got to be able to understand spacing, understand reads, understand how to kind of how you're being guarded, your teammates being guarded. So very few players and people actually
more flexible.
Yeah. Well, you got to be able to see the game, which is probably the most undervalued and undervalued, underappreciated part of the game as well. Underappreciated part of any player's game. To be able to see the game, because if you can see what's happening, then you can analyze and then you can react. But if you can't see and you don't understand what's happening, then you're just playing off instinct and you don't really have any idea. You're just guessing at solutions. And so offensively, are you able to see how you're being guarded, your teammates are being guarded, and then whatever the defense is doing, then there's different solutions based on that. And then everybody's got to be kind of in concert of understanding, okay, this is what the defense is doing. What are our, what is our ability to attack this? Like, what are the potential solutions to the coverages or the problem the defense are presenting? And it's the same thing on defense. I mean, we play a pretty complex scheme in terms of what we switch, what we don't switch, and being able to be flexible and kind of toggle between, different things, different coverages and ball screens, different, hey, we're through, we're switching. And so we put a lot of cognitive load in our guys. And so that usually, it takes a while. As a matter like, if you're Jake Wolf, he's just a good example. He's a 6-year player. Jake has been in college for 5 years. He's played in 2 championship programs. Lipscomb, they won the ASUN won the finals, the NIT, and then Morehead State won the championship and beat Clemson first round last year. And he started on championship teams. And his learning curve was huge because it was just a completely different style of play on both ends of the floor than what he's used to. So he's the college basketball piece wasn't, a significant change for him. Obviously, he's done that for 5 years. He's physically ready. He plays hard. It's for him, the learning curve has been, systematically, this is so different than anything I've done at these other places. And again, that doesn't make it better than what he was doing. He played for great coach. He played for Casey Alexander, Lenny Acuff, Preston Stradlin, who are all, good friends and great coaches. It's just the way we do things is different. So his acclimation has been that. It's going from just take last year, Morehead State won the championship and was terrific, but they were 345 in pace. They play very slow. They run a pattern every time down, and he was at the 4. And here, he's playing a completely different style, balls in his hands a lot more. He's doing things that, playing a completely on both ends of the floor, completely different than he played a year ago. And so that's been his adjustment, and that's really where the curve comes in: is how quickly can guys figure out how we want to play, and that freedom that we give guys can be paralyzing because it's almost like, can I pick,
Well, freedom comes with responsibility.
yeah, and it comes with, okay, I got to be able to think on my feet here and make quick decisions, and we call it organized randomness because it is a lot of randomness, but obviously there's automatics, spacing automatics on certain cuts. Things are built into, infrastructure into it, so it's organized randomness, but we're playing out of concepts, and that becomes the hardest thing to guard because you really can't scout us and say, well, they do this, they run this play, we're going to do this, they run this play, we're going to do this, and really because we're playing out of concepts and floor spacing. And then again, the guys got to understand the automatics, they got to be able to maintain the integrity of the spacing, they've got to be able to play and make quick reads, quick decisions, they've got to understand the triggers and what the triggers are and what the reads are. Now that, and again, back to that underappreciated, undervalued part of the game, finding guys that can actually see the game and teaching guys once they're here to see the game. Cerebral. It's a cerebral game and trying to play with a high level of intelligence. And, we guys come in, we try to recruit guys we think have that capacity, but then it's the day-to-day process through film, through on-the-court coaching, and teaching them, drilling them on the reads of the game. I think that's where our guys historically have made the biggest jumps, like player development. There's the body, which of course, lifting and nutrition and sleep and all those aspects go into building your body. And there's skill acquisition, shooting and footwork and finishing and passing and shooting different shots of different, action and movement and dribble and range and all the different things go into skill acquisition. And then there's building their basketball IQ, teaching them how to be smarter players, teaching them how to see the game, to understand what's going on. And that's the most tedious part. But obviously, in my opinion, probably, if not the most important right there, the other two in terms of our player development program, we're really trying to excel in all three areas.
The randomness of the way you play, if I can use that term, gives you an advantage over a lot of teams who play sets, because it takes them longer to recognize and to adjust to what you're doing. It gives you advantage on the floor.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it allows us to play faster because they're not looking at me, right? Like I'm calling plays when the referee touches the ball. I'll call something. If I feel like we have an advantage that we're not taking advantage of, I'll call something. And certainly a lot of times in a late game scenario, down the stretch of a close game, critical offense, I'll take the reins some. But for the most part, they're never looking over at me. They're playing, and they're playing when you play that way, and you give the guys the freedom to play that way. What you do is you really kind of unlock their ability. They do things that you wouldn't have even thought of, and players are much smarter than we give them credit for. And so we try to unlock that and let them feel ownership, for how we're going to play. Now there's, non-negotiables. I mean, the ball's going to move, body's going to move. We're going to be unselfish. We're going to share the ball. We're going to hit open guys, and if they don't, they're going to come out, right? I mean, they're not going to play. So it's never a question of if we're going to do those things, we're going to do those things. But we're certainly, I think it gives guys, everybody in the offense, I think when you play that way, feels like they're a part of it. It's a very egalitarian way to play. You're not necessarily just isolating or spotlighting one or two players. Everybody, when you're doing it right, everybody should feel like they're doing what they do best all the time. So if you're Jason Kent, you should feel like, man, I'm going to do what I do best all the time. If you're Robbie Avila, I'm able to do what I do best all the time. If you're Isaiah Swope, Brian Conwell, Julian Larry, Xavier Bledson, whomever, Jake Wolf, and you take this team and they have their individual strengths. That's my job. Is how do I, get them in a position to maximize their individual strengths, and what do we do well collectively, and how do we work together to get us doing that all the time? What don't we do well, and how do we mask that, hide that, take that off the table, and then again, so just like, and so I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do as coaches, is to problem solve and to put guys in positions to do what they do best, do as often as possible. At the end of the day, that makes the individual player look their best. It also makes the group, the team, look its best.
And most of the time, unless they've really screwed up, when you take a guy out, it's for a blow of rest. He's coming off the floor, high-five him, he's got a smile on his face, and the guys on the bench are cheering and patting him on the back and that type of stuff. So you build a camaraderie and freedom and a joy in playing, but making it cerebral has helped, I would assume, help them as young men to mature and develop personally, not just in the game.
Well, I think the thing when guys come here, you know, we talk a lot about it in the recruiting process and making sure that we try to find guys that line up, you know, culturally with us. But I think, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, somebody's competitive character, which to me is ultimately, you know, what we kind of try to look for in our players. But culturally, you know, I think yes, being able to enjoy one another's success. Being able to that if your emotional investment's not dependent upon your playing time, so guys aren't playing as much if they're just sulking and pouting because hey, I'm not getting my time, so you know that's all part of being a great teammate. And being a great teammate is certainly a part of your competitive character, your ability to get outside of yourself and understand it's not about you, it's about the group. And that is a challenge in today's world for anybody because obviously kids are told it's about you. You know, everything's about you. It revolves around, and that's the way a lot of parents operate. You know, they're and that's I'm a parent too, so you know their kids are there. You know, the sun, the moon, and everything hangs around them, and so they're brought up in this very individualistic, and they're playing this team sport where all of our success is interdependent on each other and our teammates and bringing out the best in one another, right? Like at the end of the day, like that's what really good teams do is they play for each other, they help each other, and they bring out the best in each other. That's what makes teams great. That's what I love about team sports. And so the really good teams have that. You can see it on the bench. That's your team spirit, right? Like your culture. And at the end of the day, when you go out and play, you know, all you are is your competitive habits, offensively and defensively, and your culture. And that's, you know, your ability to, your togetherness, the way you act, the way you interact, the way you respond to successes and failures. And we talk a lot about that because I think that's, but we try to get that right in recruiting too. You know, when we talk about a player's competitive character, I think the talent's always pretty easy to identify. Not easy, but that's not the hardest part. The harder part is usually do they have the inner fiber to become whatever they're capable of as a player? Do they fit the kind of guy that I want to coach, the kind of people we want in our program? Because again, you know, this is a program inherently that the way we play, you're probably not going to come out and score, you know, 25 points. You're not going to dominate the ball. You're not going to be able to do things that I don't think you do well. Where, you know, a lot of players may want to do other stuff, but if I don't think, you know, they do it at a high enough level, then they're not going to be able to do it. And so you got to, in recruiting, be very transparent to make sure that you're getting people that fit. And like I said, that competitive character component, we're very dogmatic about making sure we get that right.
I'd like to get into the woods a little bit about the business side now that has come about in college sports. We've got COVID year that's going away. We got the portal, which is got some problems, and then what do on top of that? We throw NIL, name, image, and likeness, and that's where money comes into play. Do you want to address that? You want to stay away from it?
No, I can address it. Yeah, of course. I think NIL in its the way it was conceived was probably good. The original
communism is on the surface is good. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work, right? And so I think when you get into NIL, the thought was that players should have the ability to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. And so they should have the ability to, like, with jerseys sold, I'll just use an example, like, let's just say Robbie has goggles, and my eye doctor says, hey, that'd be great, you know, here in town, Terre Haute, let's get Robbie to do some commercials for us, and we'll pay him, and we'll do this, and this would be just a great idea. And now Robbie should be able to do that and make money off that. That, to me, locally for your own players, being able to profit off that with local businesses and opportunities should be cars, whatever it is. That should all be, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that aspect, that players should have the ability to do that. What it's turned into, though, like most things that are rolled out and there's not any guardrails given to them, is in a lot of places it's pay for play. And hey, we'll give you this amount of money to come play for us. And then it's like, well, now, high majors are dipping in and taking, mid-major players, and mid-majors are going down and taking low major and D2s, and low majors are taking division, and everybody's pulling from each other. And, and I'm sure in some ways at the higher levels, that can be, life-changing money for some of those kids.
Yeah.
But
Hard to turn down.
Hard to turn down, but you lose a lot in that process.
Along that line, talking,
Yeah.
not to disrupt you, but along that line, some people don't realize how much it is. I had, the head football coach at Ohio State told me last year that he said it cost us $10 million just to keep our team. $10 million more than last year just to keep our team because of NIL, but what we have to pay the kids to stay.
That's probably accurate. That
blows my mind.
Yeah. Football is with that many players.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's basketball.
Yeah, it's across the board. Yes. It's certainly, when you see it, football, men's basketball, and then probably at a lesser extent, but to some extent baseball, and then maybe women's basketball, it trickles down from the top down.
Right.
There's no question that like those type of numbers are accurate. The players, just at Division I level are making multiple. I know basketball players making $500,000 or more for a year. There's a few that have crested $1 million for a year, or have a 2-year deal for $4 million. It's remarkable the amount of money that's being invested. I don't know how sustainable that is. That people are going to want to invest that much money if the product is not matching up, because only one team wins the national championship, and if you're throwing $10 million into and you come up short, if Ohio State football gets to the college football playoff but comes up short, is that considered a failure? People continue to throw $10 million in it? I don't know. You just saw it with Texas A&M. They at NIL had a number 1 recruiting class in the country. Went 5-7. They were 6-4. They fired their coach. They're going to pay him $76 million in buyout money, and go hire a new coach. And I'm sure pour into that. So some of those places almost have
hire me and fire me.
Yeah, exactly. When I grow up, I want to be a fired football coach for $76 million. Wouldn't be a bad gig. I don't know how sustainable it is. Again, in its original form, I think conceptually is right.
They were talking about paying kids a stipend.
Yeah. Well, they've had that with
flat rate stipend across the country, because there were some conferences that were paying stipends anyway.
Yeah. You have all the money
or under the table, right, or however, depending on the conference.
Yeah.
And we're going to make this equal across the board for everybody. And then it just like somebody opened the chicken coop door and they all flew out.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had. I mean, if like most things, there had to be a correction. I mean, sports is a multi-billion dollar business. College sports, and if you just cycle back, 15 years ago or so, college athletes, they couldn't get a sandwich. I mean, a lot of these kids come from, backgrounds where they're not flush with money, and they're getting nothing. These coaches are making millions, and the administrators are making millions, and the schools are profiting, and they're profiting off the backs of these kids who are out there busting their butts and not getting anything for it. So a correction was needed, and they built in some things where, okay, we can do, cost of attendance and Alston money. There were some things that made life much more manageable for college athletes. And then the NIL was, due to a lawsuit that, they lost, NCAA lost. And so that opened that door.
Shoot that judge.
Yeah. and then they wound up, no guardrails with it, so it just kind of came out, like I said, in its form of what it was supposed to be. I don't at all on the surface disagree with guys being able to profit off their name. You know, if a car company wants to go and work with Isaiah Swope and give him a car and for him to do commercial, I think that's great. If this company wants to work with this player, this business, or these, you know, corporations or whatever, that's great. And the more the merrier for those kids. That's fantastic. But what it has evolved into is something that I don't think anybody wants. And now when you combine NIL with the portal, you know, you basically have a free agency every year. It's like having a league where you have annual free agency and no salary caps. Like most pro sports, you know, you either have contracts, long-term contracts, or you have a salary cap. We have none of that, so it's really unlimited spending. Yeah, you have annual free agency with no salary cap. So the richer teams can look at, and we've got to do a great job here. I mean, I can't speak to everywhere else. Like for us, it's about making sure we do as well as we can with our NIL, because we gotta have an NIL clip we do that can take care of our guys to whatever level we're capable of doing it. And then we got to have a culture and a way of operating that people say, man, I like being here. And I'm willing to stay here. And it was similar when I was at Division II in the sense that not that the portal or NIL existed, but that obviously we had a lot of players who could have easily moved up and said, hey, I'm going to go play Division I. I could, you know, we had, you know, a couple guys in NBA and guys with 6 or 7 in the G League. So they all could have done that, no problem. And they stayed. And so, you know, hopefully that was culture. Hopefully that was relationships. Hopefully that was feeling like, man, I'm in a situation that I'm going to maximize my value and as a player and as a person when I leave here, because I'm going to have better opportunities than I would if I went somewhere else. I'm having an exceptional student athlete experience at Indiana State, or in that case, LMU. And then that can trump, it won't 100% of the time, trump, you know, when I'm being offered, you know, in these other places. And so that's going to be part of moving forward is a lot of the high majors look at the mid majors. They go, well, let's go down there. And I mean, we just played Alabama and you know, you look at their team, you know, Mark Sears from Ohio, really good player. Aaron Stroud was player of the year in the Colonial from Hofstra. Garrett Nelson, you know, player of the year Summit from North Dakota State. I mean, their team has been built. Nick Pringle from Wofford. I mean, been built with really elite mid-major players that they've taken, and they've had great guys before that were freshmen. They do. Nate and that staff does an unbelievable job. You just look at, that's kind of what a lot of teams have run into is these high majors will go and grab these mid-major, you know, player of the year type guys, pull them up, and that'll be how it'll work.
This conversation, part 2, is brought to you by Great Dane.